Bonjour à toutes et à tous et bienvenue dans un nouvel épisode du podcast Learn to French. Je m'appelle Eden et j'enseigne le français. Hello and welcome to another episode on the Learn to French podcast. If you're new here, my name is Eden and I teach French. In today's lesson, I would like us to focus on how to pronounce the letter C in French, but also on how to pronounce the letter G, as the rules are pretty similar. So before I start, feel free to click on the link in the description of this episode. That way you can read everything. So when you are reading French out loud, you might have been wondering how to pronounce certain words. As mentioned previously, the first part is going to focus on the letter C and the second part, the letter G in French, because there are different ways of pronouncing those two letters, and that is what we are going to learn today. There are two ways to pronounce the letter C in French. Se, like the letter S, or que, like the letter K. So when should you pronounce it like the letter K? This is what we call le C dur, or the hard C. You will hear such a sound in words like coco, carburant, or cuire. The general rule is to pronounce this sound, que, before the letters A, O, and U. If the letter C is followed by the letters A, O, and U, you will pronounce the C just like K. So for example, carotte, école, cube. Since we are learning the French language here, there are always exceptions. In words such as celiac, you can see the spelling in the article that I am linking in the description, celiac. So basically it's spelled this way, C, and then you have an OE, the ligature letter, and then LIAQUE. But we're going to focus on the first part here, which is the C, celiac. If the ligature OE, so the ligature is when you have two vowels that are stuck together. So they are basically written stuck together, really, really close to each other. And this is a letter, actually, in French. And if the ligature O and E is followed by a consonant, the letter C will be pronounced S. So in our example, we have C and then our ligature OE, and then followed by a consonant, which is the letter L, we pronounce the word celiac, celiac. If the ligature, so the OE, is followed by a vowel this time, you can pronounce it as a hard C or K. For example, the word cœur, which means heart, cœur. And we spell it C-O-E ligature, and then a U and an R. So in our case here, in our second case with the word cœur, the ligature is followed by U, which is a vowel. Therefore, we are going to pronounce C like the letter K, que. Now, when do you pronounce C as the letter S? What I mean by S is it's the sound that you can hear in words like snake or sand, just like the letter S. This is what we call le C doux, or the soft C. In French, you have to pronounce the letter C just like the letter S in some specific cases. If that letter C is followed by an E and its accent, an I, or a Y, it will be pronounced like the letter S. So for example, astuce, lisser, farcir, signe. You can read all of these words once again by clicking in the link in the description. So after an E, an I, or a Y, you will pronounce it just like the letter S. The next case you will hear the letter S is going to be when the letter C has what we call a cédille, which is the little tail you see below the C in words, like français, for example. So you have the letter C, and right below you have this little tail, which we call la cédille. No matter the vowel following the letter C with a cédille, you will need to pronounce it just like the letter S. So, for example, façon is spelled F-A-C cédille O-N. The word ça, C cédille and A, and reçu, R-E-C cédille and U. So it basically cancels the hard G if the C is followed by an O, an A, or a U. So once again, you pronounce que if you have an A, an O, or a U, and you pronounce S, if you have an E, an I, or a Y right after, or simply if you have a cédille. Now let's talk about the letter G in French and how to pronounce it. The pronunciation of the letter G is also similar to the letter C. As a general rule, before A, O, and U, the letter G will be pronounced G, or the hard G, like in garden. G. For example, in words like garçon, gomme, and aigu, you will hear the hard G. The letter G will be pronounced je, or the soft G, like the letter J in French, je, if it's followed by the vowels E and accents I and Y. So the basic rules are the same. So you can hear the sound je in words like gelé, logique, gyrophare. There's also something that I would like to add. If the letters G and E, so je, G and E, are followed by an A, an O, or a U, so for example, if you see in a word G-E-U, or G-E-O, or G-O-A, then the E is actually silent, unless there's an accent on it. And you should pronounce it je. So basically, the letter E is silent unless there's an accent on the E, and you pronounce the vowel right after. So for example, let's take the word orangeade, which is spelled O-R-A-N-G-E-A-D-E. So the G-E-A is what we are going to focus on right now. Orangeade. So G-E-A, we pronounce the soft je, so the soft G, je, and then the E is silent, and then the A. Let's take the word cajou, which is spelled C-A-G-E-O-T. So here we have G-E-O. There's no accent on the E, so we pronounce it this way, jo. The next case is the word voyageur, where we have G-E followed by a U, voyageur. In this case, we pronounce je, so the soft G, and then the sound E, which is E-U together, voyageur. So, to sum it all up, for the letter G, you pronounce G before A, O, or U, and you pronounce je before E and accents I and Y. So let's try to practice. I'm going to sound like a broken record here, but you can click on the link in the description and then scroll down to the section Practice. Once you do that, you can read the words that I am going to ask you to read out loud. You can pause this episode and then simply read a word and then play again, and then pause and read the second word and then play again. So we are going to start with the letter C. You can now pronounce the first word. Acupuncture. Limace. Maçon. Cabane. pincer, concombre, silice, rinçage, récent, calice, acéré, secours, follicule. Parfait. Let's now work on our letter G. Gant, androgyne, régal, guerre, engagé, guichet, gentil, gond, rigolo, gîte, négligent, pigeon, bourgeois. Très bien. Now, I would definitely recommend you to continue practicing reading words out loud. You can actually use tools like Forvo and just type in the word that you would like to pronounce, and those words are going to be read by native speakers with different accents if there are more than one recordings, but it's really interesting. I use it for English, and I recommend Forvo to my students because they sometimes have trouble just knowing how to pronounce a word in French. And I also almost forgot to tell you, the tool is free. So it's a website, you can just type in the word and you can listen to the pronunciation. I hope you enjoyed today's lesson. It was really fun for me to talk about the pronunciation of the letters C and G. If you want more lessons or articles, you can simply visit my website learntofrench.com. Merci beaucoup d'être resté avec moi aujourd'hui et je vous dis à bientôt pour un nouvel épisode sur Learn to French. Au revoir!